Okay, good evening everyone and welcome back to your chemistry class. In the last class, you might have studied the basics of solutions. Okay, you had started with chapter 4 solution and Professor might have discussed with you about the basic terms of solution, what are the types of solution, uh, what is homogeneous solution, what is the heterogeneous solution, all that you might have discussed in the last class. Okay, so hope everybody is clear on that. So today we'll be discussing about the some basic concentration terms, then what is the solubility, and what are the factors which affect the solubility. In the end, if you have time, we'll talk about the Henry's law as well. Okay, so with that, let's start with some recall questions as usual. So the first question will be on your screen, so everybody is ready with pen and paper. And the first question on screen is the molarity of solution containing 4 gram NaOH in 500 ml water is. Okay, you have studied about the molality in your class 11th as well. So what is the molarity of solution containing 4 gram NaOH in 500 ml water? Calculate the molarity. Okay, US. Okay, Satyam. Okay, Shami. Okay, yes. Guys, poll is also running, so quickly respond on the poll now. Okay, let's see the results. So as you can see, 9% of you are saying option A, 18% are saying option B, and 36% are saying C, and 36% are saying D. So let's quickly check what is the correct answer. Okay, so we're talking about the molarity. Huh? We are talking about the molarity. So, what is molarity? Molarity is number of moles of solute divided by volume of solution. Remember, guys? Yes or no? You remember this or not? Volume of a solution in a liter. In a liter. Okay. It should not be in ml. It should be in a liter. If this is in ml, we have to multiply by 1000. Okay. Now, what information do we have? We have the mass of NaOH, that is solute. That is it. Solute is equals to 4 gram, and we have volume of water, which is solvent, that is 500 ml. Right now, since this amount of solute is very less, we can say that is pretty much equal to volume of solution as well. Volume of solution as well. Means the volume of water is pretty much same as the volume of solution, because this solute is in very less amount. It's only 4 gram. Now, from the mass of NaOH, we can calculate moles of NaOH, and that will be 4 divided by 40. Why we are divided by 40 here, guys? Can anyone tell me why we are divided by 40 here? Anyone? Can you tell me why I'm dividing this 4 by 40? Very good, Roshan. Very good one. Because the 40 is the molar mass of NaOH. Because it's molar mass of NaOH. Yes, guys. Very good. Very good. Okay. So molarity will be, now this is in ml, so that will be equals to 0.5 liter. We have to divide by 1000 to convert ml into liter. So yeah, molarity is a number of moles of solute, that is 0.1 divided by volume is 0.5 liter, which is equals to 1 by 5 or 0.2. So the correct answer is 0.2 m, which is option D. So option D is the correct answer. If that is clear, quickly click on yes. If you have any doubt, then quickly write the answers. Okay. Let's talk about the second. Let's discuss the second question. Next question is the mass of glucose required to prepare a 0.2 m solution if the weight of solvent is 500 grams. Okay. Now here small m means molar. It's molality. This means molar. Okay. It is used for molality. Mass of solvent is 500 gram and the molar mass of glucose that is solute is 180 gram. So what is the mass of glucose that is required to prepare this molar solution? Time is already running, guys, so we will start solving. As poll is also running, so quickly respond on the poll. Eight more time? Okay, no problem. I'm giving the, let me give you 30 more seconds. Okay, give you 30 seconds. Okay, Ankita. Okay, Satyam. Okay, Sakshi. Last 10 seconds, guys. Last 10 seconds. Okay, Gaurav. Okay, let's see the results first. So as you can see, 21% as in A, 21% E, 21% D, and 36% are saying C. So most of us in C. Let's see what is the correct answer. So this is molality. Now, so molality, what is the formula of molality? Molality is moles of solute. Remember, na, we had discussed this in the very first chapter of class 11, basic concept of chemistry. Some of basic concentration comes, right? Moles of solute divided by mass of solvent in a kg. Mass of solvent in a kg. Okay, that is molality. So molality is given as 0.2. Moles of solute is unknown, so let's keep this as moles of solute. Divide by mass of solvent is given as 500 gram, that is given here. So 500 gram is equivalent to 0.5 kg. If this is 500 gram, we have to multiply by 1000 here, right? So from there we can get moles of solute, that is glucose. That is it. Glucose is equals to 0.2 into 5 by 10. Why? Because two zeros can be cancelled out here. Two zeros can be cancelled out here. So it's 5 by 10. Now, that is equivalent to 0.5. That is equivalent to 0.1. Because 5 into 2 is 10. So that's point. That's 1. 1 by 10 is 0.1. We know the moles of solute. So mass of solute, that is glucose. So mass of glucose is equals to moles of glucose into molar mass of glucose, right? Into molar mass of glucose. Now the moles of glucose are 0.1, molar mass is 180, that is T1. So that is equivalent to 18 gram. 18 gram is option B. So the correct answer is option B. Correct answer is option B. After that is clear, quickly click on yes. If you have any doubt in any of the step, then quickly write in the chat section. Yes, let's do it quickly. Very good. Okay, then let's move forward. Let's talk about the learning objective of this class. Today we'll be discussing about the solubility. What are the factors that affect the solubility? And then we are going to talk about the Henry's law. What is it? Henry's law. So before starting the solubility, we will need some concentration terms. So let's start with those concentration terms. What are those concentration terms and how we can write the formula or how can we write those concentration terms. Okay. So concentration term is basically classified into two categories. One is quantitatively, another is qualitative. One is quantitative, another one is qualitative. Okay, in these two categories, we can classify these concentration terms. So in quantitative terms, we can classify them into categories as concentrated or dilute. We use two terms, that is concentrated or dilute. Okay, means if the concentration is high, we call that is concentrated solution. If the concentration is low, we call it diluted solution. Okay, but what are the concentration terms? Which concentration terms we are talking? So if you are talking about the concentration term, we are going to discuss only about this qualitative concentration term, which are classified into many categories, starting with molality, mole fraction, percentage weight by volume, percentage volume by volume, right? Yes, US. Just give me a minute, huh? Yes, Ananda, yeah. Just a minute. Not, I haven't covered all those. Okay, we'll talk about remaining in the next. Okay, so let's first discuss about these. There are two more remaining. We'll discuss about them in next. Okay, so first let's discuss about these. Okay, these in here. So what is molarity? Molarity is basically moles per liter. Means moles of solute per liter solution. So if you talk about the formula, then it will be moles of solute divided by volume of solution in a liter. What is molarity? Molarity is moles of solute per unit volume solution, है ना? और per liter solution. If volume is not given in liter, then we use the formula as moles of solute divided by volume of solution in ml and into 1000. Okay. Whereas molality is moles of solute per kg solvent. Whereas molality is moles of solute per kg solvent. So that is moles of solute divided by mass of solvent. Here we have volume of solution, here we have mass of solvent, that is also in kg. If it's not in kg, it's given in gram, then we write it as moles of solute divided by mass of solvent in gram and we multiply by 1000. Multiply by 1000. Yeah. So far so good. Yes or no, guys? Okay, then let's move forward. Then talking about the mole fraction. What is mole fraction? As the name says, mole fraction. Means what fraction of moles are present for a particular component? What fraction of moles does a particular component possess in a solution? Yes, maybe we are going to talk about that. Just wait a minute. Okay? We have not finished all the concepts in terms just yet. Okay, so just try to really. Only two more concepts are remaining. Okay, normality and PPM. So we will discuss about those two in the next page. Okay. So yeah, mole fraction is basically what fraction of moles a particular component possesses in a mixture or in a solution. Okay, so that is it. Moles of component A divided by total moles. Can written as N A divided by N total. N A divided by N total. You can similarly calculate for NB. Second component also is NB by NT and C by NT. Doesn't matter how many components we have, we can calculate the mole fraction for each of those components. Okay. And one more thing, summation of x. Mole fraction is basically x. Okay. Summation of x. Okay. Means summation of all the mole fraction is 1. Summation of all the mole fractions in a mixture is always 1. Now, percentage weight by weight means what percentage of amount a solute possesses in a solution with respect to mass. With respect to mass. Okay. 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 Yes. No problem. One more thing is why do we need molality? Even though we have molality and both are pretty much similar. So both are pretty much similar to each other. Then why do we need one more term for molality? So the reason being, molality is temperature independent, whereas molarity is temperature dependent. Means it depends on temperature. Molarity depends on temperature. depends on temperature. Independent of temperature. Okay. Mole fraction is also independent of temperature. Okay. This is also independent of temperature. Yeah. So how does molarity depends on temperature? The molarity is moles of solute divided by volume of solution, right? Moles of solute divided by volume of solution. Now moles does not depend on the temperature. Moles of solute does not depend on the temperature. Okay. This term is independent of temperature. But if I talk about the volume of solution, then the volume is basically dependent on the temperature and is directly proportional to temperature. Volume is directly proportional to temperature. Okay. So if you increase the temperature, that means the volume is going to increase. And the reason being, if you increase the temperature, there solution particles achieve more kinetic energy, so they will try to go away from each other, resulting into more volume. And if the volume increases, both remains constant, then the molarity will decrease. So molarity is inversely proportional to temperature. Molarity is inversely proportional to temperature. Is it clear? Yes or no, guys? Yes. Okay. And why molarity is independent? Because moles are independent and mass is also independent of temperature. So both are independent, hence the molarity remains independent. Okay. As my volume is less or it's lagging. Should I speak louder? If I'm not clearly audible, I might raise my voice a little bit. Okay. Okay, no problem then. Okay. So next coming to the percentage weight by weight. What is the percentage weight by weight? So percentage weight by weight is basically what percentage of mass is present for a component or for a solute in a solution. Okay. So in a solution, what percentage of mass is there for a solute? So that means the percentage weight by weight is a mass of a solute, that should be in gram, divided by mass of solution, that should be also be in gram, into 100%. Into 100%. Okay, that is the percentage weight by weight. Clear? Since both are mass, in numerator also there is mass, in denominator also there is only mass. So mass is independent of temperature, hence percentage weight by weight is also independent of temperature. Then coming to the percentage weight by volume, it's what percentage of mass a solute has in our solution. Now this time the solution will have volume. Okay. So in 100 ml, we will call it like this. In 100 ml of solution, how much amount of solute is present? You can define percentage weight by volume as What is the amount of solute percent in 100 ml of this solution? So that will be mass of solute, that is in gram, divide by not mass, it's volume. Volume of solution in m into 100%. Okay, and the percentage volume by volume is what volume of a solute is present in 100 ml of solution. Okay? What percentage of volume is present in 100 ml of a solution? So that is the volume of solute divided by volume of solution, both are in ml, into 100%. Into 100%. Now, this is temperature independent. This is temperature independent. This is temperature dependent. And this can be temperature dependent, can be independent, because both numerator and denominator are depending on the temperature. So if both are in both numerator and denominator temperature is having same effect, then that will be nullified. But if your temperature is having different effects in both numerator and denominator, then there will be some effect of temperature. So it can't say. We can't say whether it is temperature dependent or independent. Clear? So are you guys clear on these many concentration terms? Yes or no, guys? Okay. So there are two more remaining. There are two more concentration terms remaining. The first one is normality. First one is normality, and the second one is ppm. Second one is ppm. Parts per million. Parts per million. Now, talking about the normality. Normality is also known as, in some books, it is also known as formality. This formality and normality is pretty much similar. Okay, normality and formality are pretty much similar. So, what is normality? Normality is a number of equivalents per liter solution. Normality is a number of equivalents per liter solution. Now there is one new term called equivalent. There is one new term called equivalent. Right? Basically, equivalent. What is equivalent? Right? So equivalent is basically number of moles into n factor. Into n factor. Okay. Now this n factor, this further n factor, we'll discuss about this n factor in detail when we talk about the we'll talk about this in Redox next, right? We'll discussing about the n factor in detail in the Redox next. Okay, but I'm just giving you a brief idea what exactly is n factor. So n factor is basically if we have particular substance and it changes its oxidation state. No. No. Yes, that equivalent is different. That equivalent is different. Okay, equivalent concept which has covered in mole concept is basically different than the this equivalent. Okay, both are different. So yeah, and n factor is basically the. So how do we define n factor? Basically, yeah, that is a change in oxidation system. Okay, or we can also define it as valence. Okay, so basically, if we have sodium, so for sodium the valence is 1, Na plus is 1, so n factor will be 1. But for magnesium, the valence becomes 2, as the charge is plus 2, so n factor becomes 2. Okay, similarly for aluminium, the n factor becomes 3. Okay, means basically what is happening here is that if sodium is going from sodium to sodium plus, change in oxidation state is only 1. But when magnesium is going from magnesium to magnesium plus 2, change in oxidation state will be 2. And for aluminium, it is 3. For aluminium, it is 3. Okay, so that is the uh, n factor. This is nothing but n factor. No use n factor cannot be negative. Basically, that's mode. We take the mode. Okay, we take the mode here. N factor is basically mode of delta n. N factor is basically mode of delta change in oxidation state. Okay, so here delta over is 1, delta mode is also plus 1 to 3. Similarly, let's say fluorine is going from fluorine to F minus, then delta always is minus 1. But the mode, after putting mode, it will be plus 1. Okay. Yes. Yes, okay. It can be fraction. Yeah. It can be fraction, but not negative. It cannot be 0, it cannot be negative, but it can be fraction. Yeah. Definitely. Clear? Okay. So that is the n. So I'm going to erase that part. Erasing this one. And basically, why the normality is being used? We already have molarity. And one more thing, normality is also temperature dependent. Okay, so we have the molarity. Normality is similar to molarity. You see, number of moles of n factor. There is another term called n factor here. It's just complicating the molarity, right? Normality is in one way complicating the molarity. So if it's complicating the molarity, then why we are studying about this normality? Right? So the reason being, the normality is very useful in neutralization reactions. Normality is very much useful in the neutralization reactions. Okay, when when acid base neutralization reactions happens, then normality is very useful. Their molarity is not the correct expression to represent. Hence, we use the normality. Okay. So normality is number of equivalents. Normality is number of equivalents divided by volume of solution in the liter of solute, right? Clear? If it's not in liter, then you can also call it number of equivalents of solute divided by volume of solution in ml into 1000. Now coming to the parts per million. Per million means million of the 10 to the 6. That's million. 1 million is 10 to the power 6. Okay. If I say I have 1 million rupees, that means I have 10 lakh rupees, 10 to the power 6 rupees. Clear? So million is basically 10 to the power 6. Okay, just give me a minute. Yeah. So million is 10 to the power 6. Yeah. Satyam, PPB, PPB, that's parts per billion. Okay, it's billion per billion, and billion is 10 to the power 9. Okay, billion is 10 to the power 9. Okay, means 100 crore is 1 billion. Okay, now this parts per million is defined in three ways. That's percentage weight by weight parts per billion, which is generally used, but in some rare cases, percentage weight by volume ppm is also used, and percentage volume by volume ppm is also used. So not percentage, sorry. It's weight by weight per parts per billion, weight by volume parts per billion, not percent. Okay, and volume by volume parts per billion. So in this, what is the amount of solute present in 1 billion solvent? So 1 billion solution, right? Means in a sorry, million. What is the amount or what is the mass of solute which is present in 1 billion grams of solution? Okay, so parts per billion means mass of solute divide the gram divide by mass of solution in gram into 10 to the power 6. And this is mass of solute, that's in gram divide by volume of solution, that's in ml into 10 to the power 6, and this is mass of solute. So not mass, this is volume. Divided by volume of solution in ml, gram pass ml into 10 to the power 6. Okay, that is ppm. That is ppm. Okay, so ppm is generally used when the amount of solute is very less in our solution. Okay, yes, Nikhil, this is the second chapter of class 12. Yes, ppm is generally used when the solution is very tiny. Okay, clear? That is clear to people. Yes, if you have doubt in any of the concentration term, then quickly write in the chat section. After that, we are going to talk about the solubility. Okay then, very good. Let's talk about the solubility. We have discussed about the solubility a lot of the time. No, it's same. It's the same. Number of gram equivalent or number of equivalent is same. Yeah. Yes, US dissolution and solubility are somewhat related, but not the exact, not exactly similar. Okay, they're not exactly same, but they are related to each other. Okay, yeah. So can I tell you what exactly solubility? Because we have discussed about the solubility a lot of the times. We have covered solubility in one of the chapters. So, can anyone tell me what is this solubility? Yes, Samir, there is a relation between normality and molarity. Yes, there is. Normality is molarity into M. Okay. Normality is molarity into N. Let me write here. Not exactly US, not exactly. Not exactly Sufi. Not exactly. You are just going, yeah, I get it. You remember somewhat, but not exactly. Try to reach more. Exactly what is solubility? Exactly what is solubility? Try to recall that. Okay, cool. See, solubility is basically the maximum amount of solute which can be dissolved in a fixed amount of solvent at a given temperature. Solidity is not just the ability of a solute to dissolve in a solvent, it's the maximum amount of solute which can be dissolved in a solvent. Okay. Solubility is basically the maximum amount of solute dissolved in a given amount of solvent at a given temperature. So maximum amount that dissolves in a specified or given amount of solvent at a specified or given temperature. That is the solubility. Okay, then see, no, US that is not always necessary. It can be exothermic, it can be endothermic. Okay, dissolution can be endothermic, it can be exothermic. Both of these processes are there. Okay, and you can see if you dissolve sugar in water. If you dissolve sugar in water, okay, that's endothermic process. That is endothermic process. Whereas if you dissolve calcium carbonate in water, that is exothermic process. That is exothermic process. So dissolution is both endothermic and exothermic process. Depends on the solute and solvents. So talking about the solubility, what is solubility? let's say I have this one glass of water. I have one glass of water, as you guys might have with you. Now I'm adding some NaCl in this water. I'm adding some NaCl in this water. So when I start adding NaCl in this water, initially all those NaCl will easily dissolve in this water. All those NaCl will easily dissolve in this water. I'll keep on adding NaCl and NaCl will be easily dissolved in the water. But there will come a time, when that NaCl which I'm adding will start sitting at the bottom of this glass. Those NaCl particles start sitting at the bottom of this glass. They will not get dissolved. They will not get dissolved. So the point where that happens, the point where that starts to happen is called the saturation point. Is called the saturation point. And the solution at that point is called the saturated solution. Is called the saturated solution. Means let me define here. Saturation point. From there we call about the saturated solution. And if we have less amount of NaCl, then that saturation point, behind that saturation point, then our solution is non-saturated or unsaturated solution. Yes, yes, no more solute is, no solute can further dissolve. Okay. And if we dissolve further solute, we try to dissolve further solute, then that will start precipitating out. That will start crystallizing. Okay. If so, let me repeat this whole phenomenon again. If we are adding these solute particles continuously in a solute, and the point where the dissolution stops, the point where the dissolution stops is called the saturation point. The solution at that point is called saturated solution, and the amount which is dissolved at that point is called solubility. Amount dissolved at the saturated solution is called solubility. Clear? And if the amount dissolved is less than the solubility, then our solution will be unsaturated solution. Our solution will be unsaturated solution. And if the amount which we are dissolving is more than the solubility, then precipitation will start. Then the precipitation will start. Solute particles will start separating out of the solution. Clear? Is that clear? Okay, then cool, very good. Now the solubility depends on three factors. The solubility depends on the three factors. The first one is the nature of solute and solvent. The first one is the nature of solute and solvent. The second one is the temperature, and the third one is the pressure. It depends on nature of solute and solvent, temperature, and pressure. On these three factors, the solubility is dependent. Yes, solutions which start, solutions in which solute particles start splitting out are called supersaturated. Okay, are called supersaturated. Means if the amount of solute is more than the solubility. Okay, then. So let's talk about the nature of solute and solvent. How solubility is dependent on the nature of solute and solvent. I want to give you some examples. Okay, I want to give you some examples. I will tell you whether they are soluble or not. And you have to tell me why. Okay, you have to tell me why. First one is sodium chloride and water. They are soluble. Naphthalene and water are non-soluble. Naphthalene and benzene are soluble, but sodium chloride and benzene are non-soluble. Okay, these are four examples. Can you tell me why? First of all, tell me why sodium chloride and water are soluble. Can you tell me why sodium chloride and water are soluble? Okay, but what's same? What is the same? Why they are like each other? Very good. Anyone else? Very good, US. See, sodium chloride is a ionic compound. Sodium chloride is a ionic compound. So there is polarity in sodium chloride. There is polarity in a sodium chloride because there is positive charge on one side, negative charge on another side, and if positive charge and negative charge are separated by each other, then they create a dipole. They create a dipole, right? You might have studied about that in your electrostatics also, right? Water, in water we have partial positive charge on hydrogen and partial negative charge on oxygen due to electronegativity difference. So sodium chloride is a polar molecule, water is also a polar molecule. The nature of both these molecules is same. Nature of both these molecules are same. Okay. If you talk about the naphthalene, let me draw the structure of naphthalene. Okay, let me draw the structure of naphthalene. This is naphthalene. So what is the nature of naphthalene? Is it polar? Is it non-polar? Is it polar or non? Very good, yes. Naphthalene is a non-polar molecule. Water is a polar molecule. So non-polar is not getting dissolved or not is not soluble in polar molecule. Okay. What about the benzene? What about the benzene? Benzene is polar or non-polar? Very good, Ankita. Benzene is also non-polar. So when naphthalene is dissolving it, when you're dissolving naphthalene in benzene, they are soluble. And both were non-polar. So first, when we were discussing about this sodium chloride and water, we thought if both are polar, then they will be soluble. Then we discussed about naphthalene and water. Then we thought if we are dissolving a non-polar and polar, then they will not be soluble because only polar and polar can be soluble. But when we saw the naphthalene and benzene, we thought both are non-polar, but still they are soluble. That means two non-polars can also be soluble in each other, right? And then we discussed about the sodium chloride that is polar and benzene that is non-polar. Which the polar is not soluble in non-polar. So from these four, we can derive a conclusion that if both these molecules exhibit similar properties, then they will be soluble in each other. It's like dissolves like. It's like dissolves like. Right? That is the thing about. That's how they depend on the nature of solution. That is one way. That is one way how uh, solidity is depending on the nature of solid and solid. The second way is if let's say one is highly polar molecule, another one is not so highly polar molecule, then what will happen with the solubility? Okay, let me take two examples. Okay? Let me take two examples. I have two examples. NaCl is also polar molecule. Ammonia is also a polar molecule. Right? Now, in these two, which one will have higher solubility? Which one will have higher solubility? Very good, English. Very good, Satyam. See, the NaCl plus water will have higher solubility. The reason being because ammonia, although is a polar molecule, ammonia, although is a polar molecule, but it has lower polarity as compared to NaCl. It has lower polarity as compared to NaCl, and the polarity is lower. That is the nature of solid is affecting the solubility. Na? Nature of solute is affecting the solubility. Although both are same polar here, but still the solubility can be affected by the nature. Means if high polar, that means solubility will be higher. Low polar means solubility will be low. Okay, so that's how the solubility. So that's how the nature of solute and solvent affect this solubility. Okay. Now, so solute dissolves in a solvent because why the dissolving is there? Because the intermolecular force of attractions are similar. Dissolve because intermolecular force of attraction are similar in both solute and solvent. So if you mix oil and water, then the oil is non-polar, whereas water is a polar molecule. So they will not dissolve in each other, and there is suspension. Oil will form a top layer and water will form a bottom layer. Okay, clear? Now, if they are not soluble and when they are forming two layers, then which layer will be on top, which layer will be on the bottom? That depends on the density of the substance. That depends on the density of the substance. So higher dense substance will form a bottom layer, and low dense substance will form a top layer. Okay. Yes. Yes, we can judge this solubility on the basis of the strength of intermolecular force patterns. The stronger the intermolecular forces, higher the solubility. Yeah, I'm saying that if two components or two substances are non-soluble in each other, then they will form two layers. If both are liquid, then they will form two layers. As you can see here, oil and water are forming two layers. Then in those two layers, the substance which have higher density will be present in the lower layer, and the substance which have lower density will be present in the upper layer. Okay. Okay. Then let's talk about the effect of a solid. Let's talk about the solubility of a solid in the liquid. It's about the solubility of solid in liquid, and then about the effect of temperature and pressure on that. Okay. So when a solid is dissolved in a liquid, then that forms solution. If a dissolution happens, then that will form solution. But if the crystallization starts, then the solution will start separating out solute particles and solvent particles. So if dissolution is happening, then the reaction will go on forward as more solution is formed. But if the crystallization is happening, then the solution is breaking into solute and solvent particles, liquid and solid particles. It's separating out the solid particles. So what is dissolution? Dissolution is the solid dissolves in a solvent. Crystallization is it? Solid particles get separated out of the solution. Yeah, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So crystallization is when solute particles start separating out of the solution. Clear so far? Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? Okay. Then. Sure. Then let's talk about the effect of it. Let's talk about the effect of it and temperature. Let's talk about the effect of temperature. How does temperature affect solubility of solid in a liquid? So the solubility of solid in liquid is can be the process can be in two ways. One is exothermic, another is endothermic. Okay? In a saturated solution, according to Legendre principle, the if temperature can affect in two ways. Just like I told you earlier also. When we dissolve sugar in water, that's endothermic, whereas if you dissolve calcium carbonate in water, that is exothermic. Both sugar and calcium carbonate are solid, so dissolving solid in a liquid, water is liquid, right? So when a dissolving solid in a liquid, then that is in two ways. The reaction could be exothermic, it could be endothermic. So if the reaction is the dissolution is endothermic, if dissolution is endothermic, means delta H is greater than 0. Means delta H is greater than 0. So if dissolution is endothermic, that would mean one thing, that when the reaction is happening, it is absorbing the temperature. When the dissolution is going underway, it is absorbing the temperature. So absorbing the heat, it's absorbing the heat, right? And when I increase the temperature, what happens? What happens when I increase the temperature? Does the heat increase or decrease? When we increase the temperature, will heat increase or decrease? Okay, yes. Okay, Satyam, but I'm not asking about the solubility, I'm asking about the heat. Whether heat will increase or decrease. Okay. So when it increase the temperature, the heat is going to increase. And when heat is increased, means we are changing something in our system. We are changing something in our equilibrium. And whenever we change any state or any factor which affects the equilibrium, if it change any of those factors, then as per the Le Chatelier's principle, the reaction will proceed in which direction? Whenever we change any factors which affects the equilibrium, then as per the Le Chatelier's principle, reaction will proceed in which direction? No US, not exactly. No Nishita, no Satyam. Reaction will go in the direction where the effect can be nullified. Where the effect can be nullified. Now the effect can be nullified in the forward direction, it can be nullified in the backward direction. But the legislative principle says reaction will go in a direction where the effect can be nullified. So we'll have to see where the effect is getting nullified. Accordingly, we will figure out where the reaction will be. Okay. So if you are increasing the heat, then the as per the electrical principle, reaction should go in a direction where the heat can be reduced. Where the heat can be reduced, right? Yes or no? And if the reaction is endothermic, then the heat will be reduced when you go forward. Because when you go forward, then the system is absorbing heat. Heat has been absorbed and outer heat has been reduced. And that is exactly what we want. That is exactly what we want. So the heat will be reduced when we go forward. So in endothermic dissolution, as we increase the temperature, solubility will increase. Clear? Okay, yes, I'm repeating again. No problem. As per the Leclerc principle, if you change any factor which affects the solubility, so which affects the equilibrium, then the reaction will move in a direction where the effect can be nullified. Okay, means whatever change you made, that change can be nullified. That change should not be observable. Okay, so to do that, if you are increasing the temperature, means you are increasing the heat. So if you are increasing the heat, then the reaction will move in a direction where heat can be absorbed. Where heat can be absorbed. So if heat is absorbed, that means the remaining heat will be less. We increase the heat, remaining heat is becoming lesser. That means that is exactly what we want. So reaction will move in the direction where heat is being absorbed. And if the dissolution is endothermic, means the dissolution process is absorbing heat, means more and more dissolution will happen. More and more dissolution will happen means more and more solubility. So if we increase the temperature, the solubility will increase. Clear now? Yes or no, guys? Is it clear or not? Okay, then very good. Now, in the exothermic process, when delta H is less than 0, when you increase the temperature, heat is getting higher. Exothermic means heat is releasing. Both are releasing the heat. Temperature increases releasing heat. Exothermic reaction is releasing the heat. So going forward is not a way. Going forward is not a way. But when you go back, means when you reverse a exothermic reaction, you will get a endothermic reaction. Yes or no, guys? When we reverse a exothermic reaction, it will become an endothermic reaction. Just a minute, US, I'll come to it out. Just a minute. So, if that's becoming an endothermic, temperature increase means we want endothermic reactions. So we want the backward reaction. If we want the backward reaction, means the reaction is going backward direction. If reaction is going backward direction, means less dissolution. Less dissolution means less solubility. Hence less solubility. So as we increase the temperature, solubility will decrease. Okay, that's the effect of temperature. That's the effect of temperature. Okay. And you can see the example of that. Okay, you can see the example of this in real life. If you take a hot water and then dissolve some sugar in this, another one is you take a cold water and dissolve some sugar in this. Which one will have which one in which one you can dissolve more sugar? Hot water or cold water? No, no US. We need hot water. If we have hot water, then more sugar can be dissolved. If we have hot water, then more sugar can be dissolved. Okay. Whereas if you take the calcium, sugar वाला कौन सा था? Endothermic था ना? So as we increase the temperature, solubility increases, right? And if you take the calcium carbonate, then that is exothermic. So for calcium carbonate, we need the cold water. For calcium carbonate, we need the cold water. Okay. Clear? Okay. Yeah. Now coming to the out. When you dilute a solution, that means we are increasing the amount of solvent. We are increasing the amount of solvent, right? So if we are increasing the amount of solvent, then the amount of solute that can be dissolved will be increased. Amount of the solute that can be dissolved will increase. So you might think that solubility have increased. You might think that solubility have increased, but no. Why no? Because solubility is defined at constant. US, about which one you are confused? About which one you are confused? Can you repeat? Can you write in the chat section? Are you confused in endothermic, exothermic, or in dilution? Dilution, no? Yeah, let me finish. Let me finish. Okay, and then you tell me whether you are clear or not. Okay. So yeah, see, as you okay, what happens when you dilute a particular solution? You are adding this solvent particles. You are adding this solvent particles. This is the amount of solvent is increasing. And as the amount of solvent increases, the amount of solute which can be dissolved will also increase. So you will think that the solubility is increasing, right? You will think that the solubility is increasing. Yes or no? Okay. Now the thing is, the solubility is defined at a fixed amount of solvent, right? Solubility is defined for a fixed amount of solvent. Yes or no? Solubility is defined at a fixed amount of solvent, right? So for that fixed amount of solvent, the solubility will remain constant. For that fixed amount of solvent, the solubility will remain constant. So if I say what will happen with the solubility, then yeah, solubility will remain constant on dilution. Solubility will remain constant on dilution. But the amount of solute which can be dissolved in our new solution will increase. Okay, solubility will remain constant, but the amount that can be dissolved will increase because amount of solvent has increased. Okay, clear? Are you clear now? Okay then, cool. Let's talk about the effect of pressure. Let's talk about the effect of pressure. So the pressure does not have any measurable effect on the solubility of solids and liquids. Pressure does not have any significant. The reason being, both solid and liquid particles are non-compressible, non-compressible, and if they are non-compressible, then the solubility remains almost unaffected. Solid and liquid are incompressible or non-compressible, hence they remain unaffected by change in the pressure. Okay, so pressure does not have almost no effect. Pressure have almost no effect on solubility of solid in liquid. Clear? Yes or no, guys? Yes or no? Yes, here we are dealing about the pressure we are applying on the solution. Here we are dealing with the pressure which we are applying on the solution. Okay. Okay. So that's the solubility of the solids in the liquids. Okay. We'll talk about the solubility of gases in liquid and Henry's law in next class because we don't have sufficient time to cover that in this class. So I think we had discussed about the Henry's law before also in the state of matters. So try to recall, try to revise that before coming to the next class. Okay, and then we are going to talk about the solubility of liquid, solubility of gas in liquid, Henry's law in next class, and then we are going to move forward with the Raoult's law in next class. Okay, clear? Now, if that is clear, then I'm going before launching also. Your homework is to complete the TP of C15. Complete the test practice problem of C15. Now I'm launching the feedback poll. So quickly respond on the poll. And yeah, if you have any doubt, then of course you can write in the chat section. It says if you respond on the poll and don't have any doubts, then yeah, you can leave the class, no problem. Bye bye. See you in the next class.